Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is SUKKAH Chaf Dalet. We actually proceeded pretty far down the Amud yesterday, but perhaps let's just go back for a quick chazara, starting from towards the top. So it will be 4 lines from the top of the Amud. It says the Gemara Kasha, the Rabbi Meir ad Rabbi Meir. We seem to have a stira within Rabbi Meir Shita himself. What is the Gemara referring to? So yesterday we had a shaila, whether a person can use a balachai, a behema, an animal, as a doifen for his sukkah. Rabbi Meir says, don't use an animal. Rabbi Yehuda says it's kosher. And Abai explained that Rabbi Meir is cheshish l'misa, and perhaps this animal will die throughout Yom Tov. It's going to shrink, and your doifen will no longer be valid. Rabbi Yehuda is not cheshish l'misa. Taisus explains that the background of this machlokes is as follows. What does this hinge on? You see, misa is inevitable. However, currently speaking, there's a chazaka. The animal's alive. Let's assume he'll continue as such. A person is alive. Let's assume the chazaka will continue. However, says Taisus, there's a difference between this chazaka and your typical chazaka, because here it's a chazaka which is asay l'ishtanos. It's inevitable that it's going to change down the road. It's going to be misa. So that's the point of machlokes. And Taisus explains, of course, lizman meruba, as a long-term proposition, certainly there's a valid chashash of misa. It's inevitable. The shaila here is whether to be choshish for misa in the short term, lizman mu'at. So we have a chazaka of chai. Do we have to be choshish that there's going to be a sudden change in the short term? And that's the machlokes, explains Taisus. A reader says no. There's a chazaka of chai. So an animal is going to remain alive throughout Yom Tov. We discussed a kohen who is alive, and we assume that he's going to continue in that state, and therefore his wife can continue eating truma. Whereas Rav Meir's cheshish l'misa, even in this case, even if it's an immediate chashash, l'zman mu'at, this Eishes kohen cannot rely on the chazaka, which is going to change sooner or later. Likewise, when it comes to sukkah, Rav Meir says you cannot use an animal as a doifen for your sukkah. It might die throughout Yom Tov and shrink in size. So on the one hand, we see Rav Meir is choshish for any of these unforeseen circumstances, misa. Whereas when it comes to the other Mishnah of truma, he's not so concerned about some type of circumstance which might go ahead and interfere with his truma. We're speaking about doing brera. We had the case where he purchased the yayin from the kutim. It's a minute before Shabbos. He has no opportunity to get kelim and be mafresh the truma. Rav Meir says, don't worry, do a truma using brera. Say, the wine which I'm going to be mafresh eventually is now being considered truma. The maser, which eventually I'm going to separate, I am now declaring as maser, etc., etc. That was Shitas Rav Meir. And he's not choshish that perhaps some mishap will occur, in which case the container will crack and the wine will flow out, in which case he won't ever come to complete the process, right? It's a pending procedure. It's initiated now, pending further completion. Rav Meir is not choshish that perhaps something will happen which will interfere with his ability to be gomer that masa afrosha, i.e. actually separate the truma and maser after Shabbos. So we're not choshish about unforeseen circumstances, about losing his wine along the way. And that's a stira with Rav Meir. When it comes to behema first sukkah, he says don't use the animal chayshina and lamisa. When it comes to be mafresh, the wine, depending on the brera, right, the brera procedure, there's no concern about leakage and breakage. What's the pshat? Kasha de Rav Meir ad Rav Meir. Says the Gemara, Amalach Rav Meir. There's a difference. Misa shchicha. Misa is inevitable, and it's shchiach. B'kias hanoid l'shchicha. However, breakage of that noid, of that container holding the wine, isn't necessarily something you have to be concerned with. It's not shchiach. Efshar de masal l'shomer. You can give it over to a shomer to keep an eye on it, to keep it safe and secure. Says the Gemara, okay, you've addressed Rav Meir. Now, what about Rabbi Yehuda? Kashed Rabbi Yehuda, ad Rabbi Yehuda. We have a steer within Rabbi Yehuda. When it comes to using an animal as a doifen l'sukkah, no problem. When it comes to be mafresh truma and maser from this wine, relying on the brera procedure, so initiate it now, concluded after Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't allow. The Gemara is assuming he's concerned about breakage and leakage. You might lose that wine, in which case he'll never come to conclude the truma and maser. So why is it when it comes to misa, he's not chayshish for sudden misa? When it comes to the wine, he seems to be chayshish about sudden loss. Answers the Gemara, no, that's not the pshat in Rabbi Yehuda. Tamud Rabbi Yehuda lav mishum de chayish lebekias noid. The reason why Rabbi Yehuda doesn't allow the brera procedure to be initiated is unrelated to concerns about bekias hanoid, breakage of that container. Ela mishum de lesle brera. It's because he doesn't subscribe to the concept of brera. You can't begin a process now relying on concluding it later. You can't do that. It's either you do it or you don't. So it's on account of a halachic concern that he disagrees, that he objects to Rabbi Meir's procedure. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda l'b'kiyas noid. Is that so? That the reason why Rabbi Yehuda objects to Rabbi Meir's procedure is unrelated to breakage of that noid? Take a look at the Mishnah itself of Mektani Seifa. The Mishnah continues, Amru loid Rabbi Meir. The other Tanaim addressed Rabbi Meir as follows. You allow this procedure? Don't you agree? Aren't you concerned? Shema yibaka hanoid. Maybe the noid, the container holding that wine, will crack. Allow the wine to leak out. He'll never come to be mafresh the truma maaser. What happens then? V'nimtza ze shoyse tevel l'mafreya. Will turn out this fellow drank tevel retroactively, because the heter to drink that wine throughout Shabbos is based on the fact that eventually he's going to complete the Truma Maser procedure, which is not going to happen if that wine leaks out. Why don't you have that concern? Varmalu, Rameh responds, look at Sheyabaka. We'll worry about it when it happens. Meaning, as the Gemara said before, he'll give it to a shomer. It's not inevitable. Be careful. Make sure that he has wine after Shabbos to complete the Truma Masa process. In any case, what do we see as per Rabbi Yehuda's reason? Why does he object? He just said so. He said because the wine is going to get lost. He's afraid about that noid cracking and the wine leaking out. It's pretty clear. That's the reason for his objection. Says the Gemara, no, that wasn't his personal reason. He was just using that as an argument relative to Rabbi Meir. Hasam Rabbi Yehuda de Ka'amalei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda was related to Rabbi Meir's shita. L'didi lesli breira. You know, the truth is, I don't subscribe to breira. Minatayr, you can't even do this process on halachic grounds. So that's out. Ela l'didach deish breira. However, according to you, you're a Meir. You hold of breira. Okay, I'll relate to you on your wavelength. Even if breira is a valid procedure, but in this case, aren't you concerned? Perhaps the container will get damaged and the wine will leak out. In which case, even according to you, since he didn't complete the afrasha of Truma or Maser, he has drunk tevel, l'mafreya. Amalei l'kshei baka. May responds, we'll worry about it when it happens. Meaning, I'm not concerned. He can give it over to somebody to keep an eye on it. So we answered both kashas. On the one hand, we say Rav Meir is chayshesh lemisa, by the animal being used for a doifen l'sukkah. When it comes to wine, we'll give it over to a shomer to keep it under guard. Rabbi Yehuda is not chayshesh lemisa. That's why he allows the behemoth to be used as a doifen for his sukkah. The reason why he objects to this breira procedure is simply because he doesn't hold of breira. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda lemisa. Is that so? The Rabbi Yehuda is not chayshesh for sudden death. But Tanana, we have a Mishnah back in the beginning of Yuma. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer, Af isha acheres maskinin loy. Just as they would designate a backup kohen gadol just in case he becomes tamei. So he's designated a substitute. Likewise, says Rabbi Yehuda, having a wife is crucial for the success of the Kohen Gadol's kapara. It says, "V'chiper ba'ado yubad beisai," husband and wife are one unit, and therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, not only the designated backup Kohen Gadol, afisha acheres maskinle, shema Thomas ishtoi, they would designate a substitute wife for that Kohen Gadol, just in case his wife dies. Tesis Yishanim and Yuma has two tzadim whether or not the lack of an isha is actually ma'akiv the kapara or not, but certainly it's a positive element within the kapara procedure. Rabbi Yehuda requires a backup just in case there's misa. How is this compatible with our sugya? But Rabbi Yehuda is not chayshish l'misa. Ha'itmar Allah says the Gemara, but haven't we given up shot on that halacha? Amar Rav Huna, Breid Rabbi Shua, Ma'ala also b'kapara. It wasn't halachically mandated. It was an extra mala, extra stringency, on account of the kapara and the tremendous importance attached to the kapara procedure throughout Yom Kippur. So that's why we went beyond the norm to ensure a successful kapara, and we designated even a backup isha for that purpose. Let's go over to Rashi here. 10 lines, 11 lines from the top of the Amud. Ma'askinile mezamnin the Kohen Gadol erev Yom Kippurim, they would reserve for him an extra wife. Shema Thomas ishtei v'ksiv v'chipar ba'adei v'ad beisai beisai ishtei. The reason is, says the Gemara, b'kapara Yom Kippurim also by ma'alazu shechashash ba b'midid lechayish ba'am. Although Rabbi Yehuda isn't necessarily concerned about sudden unannounced death, but when it comes to kapara, which is so important, so crucial, he did an extra mala above and beyond the required. Now, actually, the Chacham disagree. They held that, it's a never-ending proposition. If you have a second wife and you have a third wife and a fourth wife, therefore the Chacham disagree. But in any case, Rabbi Yehuda holds this is a proper thing to do. However, generally speaking, min hadin v'nat chayshish for misal is man muat. Continues the Gemara. So let's go back to Shitas Rav Meir, who doesn't allow using a behema as a doifen for a sukkah. The Gemara had two pshatim yesterday. Abaye was chayshinan lamisa. Rabbi Zera was concerned about escaping. The animal might run away. Says the Gemara, Beilamad Omar Shema Thomas. Whether according to Abaye, that the reason is because of chashash misa. Beilamad Omar Shema Tivrach. Whether according to Rabbi Zera, the chashash is the animal might run away. It seems pretty clear, says the Gemara, that midayraisa mechitza ma'ali. Minatayra, it's a proper mechitza. V'rabbanon hu de gazrba. These chashashes, these concerns, were presented by the Rabbanon. But it seems that minatayra, it's a valid mechitza. Even an animal is considered a mechitza. Ela mayata, if that's the case, the Rabbi Meir tetami misham goyleil. If minatayra, it's a proper mechitza, then sure, we can be machmer and not allow it to be used for a sukkah, but you can't be mekel. You can't say that this chashash, this gzera of Shema Thomas, Shema Tivrach, can generate a kula as well. It can't do that. A gzera can only add stringencies. It can't detract. And therefore, says the Gemara, why is an animal not going to have tumas goyla? Goyla is the cover over the coffin, which has a special tumah. The Gemara told us yesterday, according to Rav Meir, an animal doesn't have that tumah, because an animal can't serve as a mechitza. Well, now you're being mekel. If not, even an animal's a mechitza, then an animal should have tumas goyla. Alamatnan. So why did we learn in the Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda metame mishum goyel? Rabbi Yehuda considers an animal to be a mechitza and becomes tame mishum goyel for being metayr. He says it's tar. If the whole reason why an animal is unfit for sukkah is merely a chashash de rabbanon, that could not possibly affect a din ha-Torah to the extent of kula to say that it's tar. So the Gemara now reverts. Apparently, the correct pshat in Rameir is unrelated to chashash misa, chashash of escaping. Rather, Rameir does not consider an animal to be a mechitza min ha-Torah. That's why it doesn't conform to the goylal guidelines, and it's not considered a mechitza for that as well. Ella Omar of Achaber Bar Yaakov, Kasav Rabbi Meir, Kol Mechitza, Shemedes Baruach Eina Mechitza. Rabbi Meir holds that minat Torah, mechitza, which is sustained, supported by ruach, by air, by wind, by spirit, is not a mechitza. Why? Because it's not something tangible. Rashi says it's not a davar sheish bei mamish. And therefore, an animal which is being held up by ruach, some spirit holding him up, that's not a mamashis, which can be used for mechitza throughout the Torah. Whether if it's going to generate a chumrah or a kula, it's not a mechitza. So it's not kosher for a sukkah. And it does not have tumas goydel, which is also a mechitza related concept. That's one shot. Ika de Amri, there's another version of Amar of Acha bar Yaakov. Kasav Rabbi Meir, kol mechitza she'ena asuya bidei adam, ena mechitza. Mechitza which isn't man-made is not considered a mechitza. An animal is not man-made, it's not a mechitza, whether for sukkah, whether for goylel. My binayu, is there any halachic nafkamina between the two pshatim? Whether the deficiency is based on that it's something which is ruach related, or the chesarn is because it's not man-made. Says the word there is enough kamin. Ike binayu the ukma benud tafuach. He took his sukkah and he suspended. He supported it with a noid tafuach. Noid is this leather container blown up. He took a balloon. He manually blew it up and he used that as a doifen or to support his doifen. So now we have enough kamina. Is it going to be kosher? Well, it depends on the reason. If the reason why an animal is unfit is because it's oimedes baruach, it's sustained and supported by something which isn't tangible, spirit, wind, air. How do you make this baruach? This case as well, a balloon is filled with air and cannot be used for mechitza. Well, according to the other approach, that unless it's man-made, it doesn't work. Well, in this case, it's a balloon. Who blew up the balloon? It's a man-made phenomenon. Therefore, it's going to be served. It's going to serve as a mechitza. Let's go back to Rashi here on Chavdal Amud Aleph. So it's going to be 6 lines from the bottom, right in the middle of that line. Ruach Chaim. It says, as Rashi, Ruach Chaim live b'dei Adamhu. Share'ein ruach b'yadoi l'napchai. So there are two pshatim. Either because it's lav b'dei adam, and an animal is not considered a man-made thing. Ein ruach b'yadoi l'napchai. A person can't ingest his spirit into the animal. That's the first pshat. That's one pshat. The other pshat is ha'yimedes beruach al yidei ruach. If it's supported and sustained by ruach, by wind, by air, by spirit, lav mechitzahi. The ikar amidoso davar she'ein bei mamashu. So you have the two pshatim in the Gemara. Either it's because it's being supported, sustained by ruach, which is not davar she'esh bei mamash. So that refers to wind, air, or the spirit within the animal. The other pshat was an animal is not man-made, and therefore it's not considered a mechitza. And what's the nafkamina? The ukma benoy tafuach. Samach hadoifen, al hanoid tafuach beruach. He supported his wall on this blown up balloon. Ruach, that's ruach, and it doesn't work. But if it's a question of bidei adam, hari asui bidei adam. The ruach said bidei adam ba. This ruach was produced by a person. It's a man-made balloon. So that's nafkamina. Now, Tosfos and Erevin points out that when we speak about the mechitza needing to be something man-made, it doesn't necessarily mean that a person actually has to make that mechitza for it to be valid. In fact, at Tosfos, you could have a natural landmark which is considered mechitza. You have a pit in the ground, which is a natural thing. It's also fine. Asuyubi the Adam, explains Tosfos, means that the material, the way the mechitza is made, this type of thing can theoretically have been produced by a man, as opposed to an animal, which cannot be man-made, unless you make it golem. But typically it's not something man-made, and that's not called bidei adam, as opposed to a hill or a pit. Even though it's not actually man-made, but the tzura samachitza, the form, the material, the way it's made can't theoretically be a man-made thing, and therefore, says Taisus, certainly even according to Reb Meir, who needs it to be b'dei adam, that's also considered a mechitza. Taisus means a ride. The Gemara in Eruvin speaks about a hill, a valley, a pit. All these natural phenomena, even according to Reb Meir, are considered to be mechitzas. So that's the maskon of the Gemara. Why can't you use a behema for a doifen l'sukkah according to Reb Meir? It's a chasar min ha-Torah. Whether because it's not asur b'dei adam, which is a requirement for mechitzas, or because it's something she'ein b'ei mamash, it's not tangible, it's wind, it's air, it's spirit, and that can't present as a barrier, as a mechitza, regarding kol ha-Torah kula. Continues the Gemara. Amar mar, let's review. Mishum Rabbi Yehuda Amru, af ein koisfen olav gitinash. Rabbi Yehuda adds, he says, an animal, you can't even use it to write a get on it. My time with the Rabbi Yehuda. What's the pshat? The sanya. Listen to this price. The pasuk says, "V'kasav lo sefer krisis v'nasam b'yada v'shilcha mibeisa." Says the brisa, if the pasuk would have only have said sefer, without the word v'kasav, sefer, ein li'ela sefer, I would assume it's speaking about a parchment. That's your typical sefer. The pasuk in Yirmiyah speaks about a sefer being a parchment. Let's assume sefer means parchment. So divorce document can be written on parchment. Menayin l'rabbis kol davar. How do you know to include anything else as well? Any other writing materials? The pasuk could have simply said v'nasam b'yada sefer krisis. Why v'kosavla sefer krisis? It's coming to add all other materials as well. It's not only cloth, any other writing material. So why then does the pasuk single out sefer, which is parchment? You're going to include anything else anyways. To teach you that although you can use other materials, but they have to be similar in nature to a sefer. Ma sefer davar she'ein bo ruach chaim ve'ein eichel. Just as a sefer is something which is not living and doesn't eat. I've called davar she'ein bo ruach chaim ve'ein eichel. Likewise, if you want to write your get on anything else, it needs to follow this type of guideline. It has to be something which is not ruach chaim and doesn't eat. And therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, a get on a baal chai is possible. Now the Rabbanan disagree. They hold you can write a get even on a baal chai. In fact, the Gemara in Gittin speaks about a get written on a horn of an ox. So that's when Rabbanan, how did they respond to Rabbi Yehuda? Kasav b'sefer k'dekamras. If the pasuk would have said v'kasav lo krisis b'sefer, right? So he writes the krisis in a sefer. So yeah, the word b'sefer is alluding to the writing material. What you write the get on, b'sefer, which is cloth. Hashtalachsiv sefer. But the pasuk didn't say that. It doesn't say he's going to write it b'sefer, because of lo sefer. Say the Rabbanan, the word sefer is not alluding to the writing material. L'sfiras dvarim ba'amud asa. It's just describing the content, the wording within the get. L'sfiras dvarim, description of events, the words of the get, the divrei haget. That's all. It's not referring to the sefer. So Rabbi Yehuda's starting point was a sefer is the material on which you write the get. It's referring to cloth, and you have to add the kasav to include other materials as well. But it has to be similar to a sefer. Can be baal chai. Rabbanan say no. The word sefer is not a reference to the writing material. It's not a reference to the document itself. It's referring to the wording within the document. L'sfiras dvarim ba'amud asa. If that's the case, you don't have a starting point for your drush. Says the Gemara of Rabbanan hay v'kasav my darshibe. Okay, according to Rabbanan, that the pasuk isn't referring at all to the material on which you write the get. Then why does the pasuk add the word v'kasav? See, according to Rabbi Yehuda, sefer meant cloth. V'kasav came to add other materials. You needed v'kasav to broaden the horizon. But according to Rabbanan, there's no mention of cloth in the pasuk. You can write your get on anything. So what's the point of the word v'kasav? What's it coming to include? My darshive. Rabbanan need v'kasav to teach you another halacha. V'ksiva miskareshes. You can only megarish isha with a written document. Ve'ena miskareshes v'kasav. You can't use money to megarish. Rashi says perhaps you would equate divorce to acquisition, just like kedushin can be done with money. You give her a coin, hariyat mekadeshesli. Perhaps gerushin would work the same way. Give her a coin, l'shem gerushin. Says the pasuk, v'kasav l'seva decreases. Decreases. The disengagement, the gerushin only occurs through a ksav, not through kesef. Perhaps there would be room to think. Since we find the pasuk does somewhat connect Yitzia, divorce, Lahavaya, to Kiddushin. Rashi brings the pasuk, V'yatza mebeisei, v'holcha v'hoysel ish achar. V'yatza is the gerushin, v'hoysel is Kiddushin. So we see that two things are somewhat related, and perhaps that would lead us to say, Ma'y havaya b'kesef, just as the Kiddushin is generated through money, af Yitzia b'kesef, likewise the gerushin, kamash malon. That's where the pasuk says, v'kesef, no. Only ksiva can generate gerushin. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, how does he know this halacha? The pasuk of v'kasav is unavailable. He already used it for the other halacha. Menali, missefer krisis nafkali. The fact that the Torah chose to place the word sefer right next to the word krisis, that's coming to tell you this halacha. Sefer kursa, vein davacha kursa. Only a get, only a sefer, a document, can generate that krisis, that divorce, but nothing else. V'idach. What do Rabbanan do with this drasha? Sefer krisis. They need it for something else. That the get needs to be a procedure, an event which totally disengages them, disconnects them. Meaning, suppose he wants to condition his get on a tonight. He says, I'm giving you the get on condition of such and such. It's only going to work if it's a short-term condition. But if this condition generates a lifelong commitment on her account, she's completely committed to him throughout her life because of this condition that he stipulated at the time of get, that's not a get. This get is with strings attached. So it needs to be a davar hakores b'noil b'no. That's where we learn from the word sefer krisis, complete cutoff. Kedesanya, as the Brisa will present for us, Hareza gitech amanash leitishti yain. Gives her a get on condition you don't drink wine. Amanas shleitechi lebeis avech la'olam, on condition that you don't enter your father's home la'olam forever. And by the way, Tesis asks, her father's not going to be around forever. So Tesis says it means her father's estate, his father's family, his children, his grandchildren. So you won't have anything to do. You won't go into any of those homes forever. And these are creases. It doesn't work. You know why? Because it's not a cutoff. It's not a disengagement. She's completely attached to him. She's committed to him and to his conditions for the rest of her life. So that's not a valid get. However, kol shleishim yayim harei ze krisis. If his tanai is merely a limited tanai, a 30-day tanai, you won't drink wine for the next 30 days, that works. Because after 30 days, commitment's over. Therefore, Rashi says the get is actually chal right now, because there's nothing deficient within the get. So this halacha is learned from sefer krisis. It has to be a sefer which generates krisis, cutting off, v'idach. Now the problem is that according to Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, this drasha was already used for something else. It was used to tell us that gerushin can only take place through a sefer without, and not money. So how does he know this halacha? V'idach, Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, mikares krisis nafka. He could have said sefer kares. Krisus, we use it for a drasha. It has to be something that cuts off. V'idach, what do Rabbanan do with that extra vav saf, krisus? Kares krisis leidashi. They don't expound on kares krisis. It's the derech of the pasuk, and we don't need to apply a drasha to it. So conclusion, we had a shaila whether or not a person can write a get on a Baal Chai. Rabbanan say yes, Rabbi Yehuda Kessler says no. The Gemara brings a brisa which presents the two shittas, which are based on the same pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'kasav la sefer krisis v'nasam biyada." Rabbanan learn as follows. The word v'kasav come to tell you that Edom miskareshes bekesef. Gerushin only takes place through a sefer, through a ksiva. The word sefer is not referring to the cloth, the material. It's just sfiras tzvarim. He has to write these words, which are going to describe what's happening, the event of the gerushin. Sefer krisus tells you it has to be a true disengagement. The gerushin has to be kairis, as opposed to applying some sort of condition, which is going to be a lifelong condition. Krisus is not applied for drasha. Basically, he learns because of us telling you can write it on anything, but you're limited. Sefer tells you it has to be something similar to a cloth, to the extent that it's ein boy ruach chaim, so an animal is no good. Ein boy ruach chaim ve'eino eichel. Sefer krisus tells you that the only way to be megarish is through a sefer, as opposed to money. The extra vav saf krisus, that has to be davar hakuris b'noi lebeno, as opposed to a lifelong tonight. Continues the Mishnah. If a person positions his sukkah right between the trees, using the trees as walls, sukkah is kosher. You meant to know that a machitza which sways in the wind, it can't withstand even a common gust of wind. That's not called a machitza. Let's go over to Rashi. Right off to the left. Beni Lonis. So he put his sukkah between the trees. Ba'aretz, of course it was planted on the ground, meaning the sukkah is not sitting on a tree, which would create Shabbos and Yontif complications we had in the previous Mishnah. Here he placed the sukkah on the floor. He places SUKKAH on stilts, on poles, whatever it is, and everything is down on the floor, or even perhaps on the trees. But the bottom line is that it doesn't have to go up. The floor is the aretz. So he's using the trees as walls. And the Gemara tells us, and the Mishnah says it's good, and the Gemara continues, any mechitza which can't withstand a ruach metzuya, a common wind, what happens? The wind sways it back and forth. That's not a mechitza. Now the Chazon Ish explains the concern is only when the wind would sway it out of range, meaning if the wind swaying the mechitza puts it out of reach of the SUKKAH, it distances it 3 tvachim from the SUKKAH, it makes it puzzle, then you have a concern. Other Farshim say, as long as it's within less than 3 tvachim, to and fro, you're okay. Meaning, if the total swing, the total gap between both sides of that swing is less than 3 tvachim, that's within lavad. It says the mechitza is still and standing in one place. But if the swing back and forth is 3 tefach or more, then that's what the Gemara is referring to by mechitza she'eino yichoyle lamoid beruach metzuya. It's not a mechitza. Says the Gemara. Okay, let's take a look at our Mishnah. Tanan ha'isa sukkah ben elonis v'elonis tefanas lo kshira. One may use trees as walls for a sukkah. How does that work? Isn't the tree going back and forth? Speaking about older trees, thick, stiff trees, which aren't moving too much. What about the thin branches that are moving? The avad leibutz of a dafna. He'll reinforce it using palm branches, v'dafna, some other branches. He'll go ahead and make a weave and braid it together, keep it still and in place. If that's the case, and why discuss it? It's pashut. What could be wrong with such a sukkah? What's the chiddush? Ma'odatema, perhaps there is room to say, don't use it. Nigzer dilma aslish tamusha be'ilan. It should be a gzera, perhaps, that if you use a tree as a doifin, you might actually use the tree directly. You might place something on the tree on Shabbos and Yontif, which is not permitted. Kamash malon, the chiddush is there's no such concern. But certainly we're speaking about a tree which is still in place. Tashma, listen to this raya. Hayisham ilan agoda. We learned about the pasei berois. So you have a well, then you a rab. Chacham allowed the creation of a semi-enclosure which would allow carrying within that area. So you're going to place 4 dyumdin, right? The 4 L-shaped corners around the bear, which creates some sort of separation and makes it into Rishus HaYachid. Now let's say there was a tree sitting there. Haysham Ilan, Oy Gadar, or a stone wall, Oy Mechitzas HaKanim, or cluster of reeds. Can you use that as your L-shaped corner? Nidan Misham Dumut, you can use it as a Dumut. What do you mean? We're speaking about something which is swaying back and forth, a tree, reeds. Hasam Nami Misham Da'avid Leibehutza B'Dafna, we're speaking there as well, where he reinforced it with branches to keep it still and in place. Tosh Malzin to this right. The mission says, Elon HaMesach Ha'aretz. There's a tree, a wide tree, whose branches appear like a canopy. They spread out like a canopy. They come all the way down to the ground. Im ein noif v'ygoveya min ha'aretz shloisha tfachim metalton tachtav. If the distance between branches and the aretz is less than 3 tfachim, you connect it using lovet, and you can carry underneath that entire tree, surrounded with a mechitza. Says the Gemara, how can you use branches which sway back and forth as a mechitza? Amai haka azal va'asi, swaying back and forth with a ruach mitzuya. Some nami, says the Gemara, the avale butzav dafna was speaking that he reinforced it using branches. Yachi, if that's the case, that what? That he himself went ahead and fixed up that mechitza. He turned it into a mechitza. Nitalta bakule. Why can't you go ahead and carry throughout the entire enclosure, irrelevant of its size? We'll get to that in a second. Well, what is the Gemara referring to? Let's just see the words. Alama Amar Rav Huna bar Yeshua. Why can't you carry throughout this entire area, even if it's big in size? Why did Rav Huna bar Yeshua tell us that we're restricted, we're limited to a certain size? The only way you could carry under this tree is Ela Beis HaSayim, if it's no larger than a Beis HaSayim. Now let's go down to Rashi here. 4 lines from the bottom. Ihachi. So Rashi will present the background for this halacha. It's an Aaron-based concept. Ihachi, says the Gemara, Da'asuyu biyadayim. If it's a man-made mechitza, says Rashi, V'roi lo datachtea, which is suitable for dwelling, ulish masada asa. Why do you do this? Why is he fixing up the tree? To make it a makam dira, place of residence, under which he will dwell, he will sit and watch his field. V'kiva demukav l'diru. Since this place has been enclosed for the sake of residency, it's a mukav l'dira. It's a proper Rishus HaYachid. L'talta b'kulei k'loima, says Rashi. Y'talta by kol kamashu gadol. You shouldn't have a limit in size here. As large as it is, you can carry beneath it. Why? Allah ma'amar Rav Huna metalton by ella klal elam ken einay hayva ella kashir beis hasayim k'chatzar mishkan. Why did Rav Huna tell us the only way you can carry under the tree is if the total area, total space, isn't greater than a base sayim? She says it's like the chatzar mishkan. Chatzar mishkan was 100 by 50 amma. A base sa'ah, place where you can plant a sa'ah of seeds, is 50 by 50 am. Chatzar Mishkan was double that, 100 by 50 am. And Rashi says that shiur has significance. Shiur zeh nasnu chacham. Chacham applied that shiur l'chol hekef. She'ein asel dira. Any non-residential enclosure must conform to this shiur. V'im gadol humikan, if it's larger, have a carmelis, like a carmelis. V'im metalton boy, you cannot carry in that carmelis. Because look, it's a large, although enclosed area, but it's large, unresidential area, which gives you the impression like it's a field, a forest, a desert. It's a carmeless, it's a place where you cannot carry midrabanan. So if it's small in size, if it's up until base sa'osayim, which is the size of the chatzar mishkan, we use that as a precedent. If it's small enough to be like the chatzar mishkan, then it has somewhat of a residential flavor to it, in which case you won't confuse it with a carmelis, with a Rishus Harabim. But if this large enclosed area, this large non-residential area, is larger than a Beis HaSayim, now it loses its residential element and appears like an open area, like a carmelis. What which only allows carrying within 4 amos, like we just said, Ram. Okay, so that's a general rule. Again, if you have an area which is enclosed, ledira, mukaf ledira, like your front yard, your backyard, which is makam ledira, your house is open to it, it serves your home, it's a residential area, then you can carry within it, irrelevant of its size. It's a bona fide rishus hayachid. But if it's a large enclosed area, which is not a residential area, beneath a tree, some storage area, which is not considered mukaf ledira, then it depends how large it is. If it's no larger than the chatzar mishkan, then it retains its residential flavor. You can carry within that area. But if it's larger than base saim, it's more than 150 by 50 amma, it appears like a carmelis. And since it was not enclosed l'shem dira for residential use, you cannot carry throughout this area. We treat it like a rishis ram, like a carmelis. You can carry within 4 ames, but no more than that. How does it pertain to us? The Gemara is assuming that under a tree canopy, even if it's a machitza, even if it's halachically an enclosure, it wasn't hookah for ladira. Nobody's living there. So sure, if it's larger than base of saim, you cannot carry in that place. But the Rabbanan looks like a carmelis. However, once you've established, we had a kasha, it's not a machitza, it's moving around. No, he went ahead and reinforced the machitza with hutza v'dafna. So once you've come to that point that he himself manually upgraded the mechitza, he reinforced the branches so that they stand still and provide mechitza. Why did he do this? What was his motive? Says Rashi, because he wants to live there. He wants to stay there and use it as a lookout to watch his fields, which are lying beyond that tree. That's called hukaf ledira. And if that's the case, who cares how large it is? It's hukaf ledira. It was enclosed for residential purpose. So why does Rav Huna tell us the only way you can carry under the tree is if it's up until 2 sa, which sounds like he's referring to it like a makim shelo hukaf ledira, but it's not so. If your interpretation in this mission is correct, that he himself reinforced the branches, l'shem dira should be mutar despite its large size. Continues Rashi, v'hai, this tree, given to be a daim hukaf, was manually enclosed. U'ledira, afilu yaisim b'sasayim l'taltobe. Answers the Gemara on the top line. Mishum dahavidira shetashmisheh la'aver. You're right. It was manually enclosed, and it was for the sake of dira. But what type of dira? Does he really want to live under the tree? The purpose of this dwelling is to serve the area beyond it, the fields beyond it, the aver, the unroofed areas beyond that tree. It's a dira shetashmisheh la'aver. V'chol dira shetashmisheh la'aver ein metaltalin by el beis hasayim. The Gemara responds, even though it's manually enclosed. So if it was for the sake of this makom, you're right, it's a makom hukav l'dira. But this tree is merely a service area for the makom beyond the tree, for the aver beyond it. It now loses its residential aspect. It's not a makom dira per se, it's a service area for a makom aver. And therefore the Chacham don't regard it as a true makom dira, and you're bound by the two sa'ah limit. So the Chiddush is, even though he himself reinforced the tree in order to live there, but it's not a place of living, it's not a place of dwelling. It's just servicing the aver beyond it. So this area as well is regarded like a semi-dwelling place. It's not really a makam hukaf ledira, and the only way it can carry is if it's small enough, in which case it retains its residential flavor, but if it's too large, it appears like a carmelis. Continues the Gemara. Toshma, listen to this right. So this is referring back to the yisoy that we had, that a mechitza needs to be bound. It can't be swaying back and forth for it to be considered a mechitza. Toshma, Shabbos betel. This fellow spent Shabbos. So come Friday night, he found himself in a hill, Shu Gavoya Asara, which was 10 tefachim high. So the surface on top of that tail is considered Rosh Hashanah. Rashi explains, we apply the concept of good asik, right? If it's 10 by 4, we say the machitas along the side extend upward, and the area on top is considered a Rosh Hashanah. Shabbos betel shul gavay asara, Vuhu, and the surface on top of this tail is me'arba amis ad beis osaim, anywhere between 4 amis in size up until 2 sa'ah. Right? Because if it's beyond 2 sa'ah, it's not really considered a properly enclosed area, as we explained, because it's not hukaf dira. So if it's 2 sa'ah or less, then yeah, you consider this place to be enclosed with mechitzas. V'chein b'neka, likewise, if he happened to spend Shabbos in a pit, in a crevice in the ground, shu amakasar, 10 tefachim deep, v'hu ma'arba amis ad beis osaim, again the surface area being between 4 amis and 2 sa'ah. V'chein kamak tsur is another example. We have a grain field, a wheat field, and you have in the middle kamak tsura, kama stalks which are already harvested. So you have a clearing in the field, v'shiboyos makivas ois, and you have stalks still in the ground encircling that clearing. So what's the halacha? Come Shabbos, he wants to take a walk. He can only walk 2,000 amma, Tchum Shabbos. Where is he going to begin measuring Tchum Shabbos? From his personal space where he's standing? Or shall we say, since he was Shavis, he spent Shabbos in this enclosure, in this mokim mukaf machitzis, then we consider this as his Shabbos dwelling, as his mokim shvis, like his house. In which case he counts 2,000 amma only beyond the mechitzas. Says the Bryce, indeed, mahalach is kula. He can walk freely throughout this entire enclosure because it's considered one and the same mokim. And beyond that, another 2,000 amma. So that's the Bryce. How does it pertain to us? He's using shiboilos, stalks. The stalks are just swaying back and forth. How is it a mechitza? Hasam nami there as well. The avad leibutza v'dafna was speaking that he reinforced. He stiffened those stalks using hutza, palm branches, v'dafna, branches from a different type of tree. So he went ahead and he created this braided mechitza all around him, and he's encircled with a proper mechitza, which is unaffected by the winds, and therefore we consider this to be a makam mukaf. It's all considered like his house, like his makam shvisa, in which case he can go ahead and count his 2,000 amma beyond that mechitza. Okay, time for a Rif Chazar of today's daf. So Meir says you cannot use an animal l'doifen l'sukkah, or as the Gemara concludes, it's not considered a mechitza throughout all the halachas of the Torah. The Gemara provided 2 reasons. Either because a mechitza which is oimedas beruach, something which is supported and sustained by something which is ruach, intangible, or she says ein mamish, it doesn't work. An animal is being sustained by its spirit. Whereas others shita maintain that a mechitza has to be asuya bidei adam, as opposed to the animal which doesn't have that quality. We had a machlokes in Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that you cannot write a get on a Baal Chai, learns it from Sefer. And Rabbanan maintain you can write a get on anything that has the ability to retain that kasa. We conclude with the Mishnah that a sukkah between the ilanos is perfectly fine, provided that the branches will not sway back and forth with a ruach mitzuya. Kotav to you and atzlach harab.